morning, everyone. I'm Nathan Shapora, Senior Political Advisor at the European People's Party. On behalf of the EPP, welcome to this episode of EPP Family Talks. This morning, we are very glad to have with us Mariya Gabriel, Vice President of the European People's Party and European Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education, and Youth. Vice President, Commissioner, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hello, everyone.
One of the questions we like to start with all of our leaders in this EPP Family Talks series is just the situation in their home countries. Your home country of Bulgaria has elections coming in the next few weeks. Could you tell us what's the situation there on the ground? What will this election be about as far as the issues? What should we expect?
Well, what I wish to see, at least during the campaign and before the elections, is to have a real debate on ideas, values, projects, concrete for the European development of the country. So I think that the first thing is really to reaffirm our European commitment, to see how the country can evaluate in the European context and what are the strengths, how to modernize the economy, how to seize the momentum with the resilience and recovery facility where we need to invest, how to invest in our young people, in our talents, and how to use the opportunities given by new technologies in order to affirm the leadership of the country and the leadership of Europe in this common journey, which is tackling digital and climate change challenges. So that's my wish. I really wish that during the elections we'll see a very good debate, and on that side, I must say that as usual, all the EPP family is very concrete, very pragmatic. We'll talk about jobs, we'll talk about economy, we'll talk about us as a society. So that's my wish, and I very much would like to see that.
Well, we wish all of our EPP parties well in the elections, and that's a perfect segue to my question to focus on your portfolio, and in particular your focus on innovation, especially on empowering a new generation of European innovators. And I wondered if first we could take a bit of a bird's eye view. I think you characterize innovation in terms of several waves, and now we're currently in the world in the fourth wave of innovation, as you would see it. So could you tell us, what does that mean exactly, that we're now in the fourth wave of innovation, and how can Europe in this fourth wave not only catch up but be a leader?
Well, indeed, there are four waves of innovation in recent history of innovation. You know that the first one covered the first and second industrial revolutions. The second wave was about big research departments with multidisciplinary teams, mainly involving the scientific community. I must say that here Europe was very strong in this second wave. The third wave, where we are currently, has seen the emergence of small disruptive companies, the so-called digital startups. And now we are at the dawn of the fourth wave of innovation with deep tech ventures gathering momentum. And these deep tech startups have their own characteristics, like they are not easily replicable because they are based on science and intellectual property. 70% of the deep tech startups own a patent. And the second main characteristic is that they are problem-oriented instead of technology-driven. 97% of the deep tech ventures contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. So as you can see, this fourth wave of innovation is moving from bits to bits and atoms. It is moving from 140 characters to flying taxis like Lilium Unicorn to solve problems that our society needs to tackle. And this new wave of innovation is using also the power of venture capital and of innovation ecosystems. So in the near future, it's true that we'll see deep tech startup developing transformational solutions. And I think that now it's the right momentum because Europe is very strong in science, and we can transform this leadership into a leadership in innovation. And we have very good examples. Just take the example of the development of vaccines in 9 months, like BioNTech startup. That's something that we have now, and that will be in the future too. And we need here to generate more examples to see how we can use this in some key areas, like energy, like mobility, like automated industry. And all these examples, the good is that we have European deep tech startups. And here, it's up to us to address the weaknesses, to use our strengths, and together with our member states to work together to ensure that European Union becomes the global powerhouse for startups in the next 5 years.
I love the phrase you used, from bits to atoms, to describe this new wave of innovation. I think for people like me who are not so much into the topic, it gets a bit into sort of the science fiction, but also it becomes extremely fascinating. You yourself are showing a lot of leadership on this area, as you've just talked about deep tech startups as part of the innovation agenda, which you are putting forward. You've personally met, my understanding is, with over 33 unicorns. So you mentioned the example of Pfizer and the rapid development of the vaccine. What are some inspiring stories you've encountered in this journey in this past few months? And why are these startups so important for Europe? Why is it so important for Europe's ability to compete in research and innovation?
Well, indeed, I must say that first, immediately after taking possession of my new portfolio on innovation, I realized that we need to give voice to these new generation of innovators, startups, scale-ups, unicorns, venture capital fund managers, and accelerators. And this is something that should be done at the member states level. And certainly I'm preaching by example. I have organized high-level meetings with the European unicorns that represented 26 member states, with ecosystems leaders from the 27 member states, and with women venture capital fund managers. And as a result, they have provided us with excellent ideas of what needs to be done to ensure that Europe becomes the leader of this new wave of innovation. I have met with the founders of unicorns like Daniel Deans, founder of UiPath. This is an excellent example of the new wave of innovation because UiPath is a deep tech startup that uses automation robots, and it has become the biggest ever IPO of any European startups ever, bigger than Spotify and all previous ones. And I really had a private inspiring meeting with him soon after the IPO, and we are working together to see how he and his experience could be a catalyzer for the development of innovation ecosystems in Romania, his country of origin, and of the whole Central and Eastern Europe innovation ecosystem. And there were also many other inspiring stories, like the one of Skeleton, that develops from Estonia batteries that are more efficient than the ones developed by Tesla or any other manufacturer in the world. The supercar being developed in Croatia by Ramic Automobili, that can help the whole automotive industry in Europe to catch up in terms of innovation. So you can see these unicorns and ecosystems leaders are full of innovative ideas, and they want to give back to Europe part of what they have received from Europe and that has helped to be where they are. And that's the very, very added value of our common approach. We are working together using all the innovative capacity and ideas that we have, but in a very concrete and pragmatic way. So I very much count on them to continue in the same direction, because I think that we should definitely seize the momentum.
You mentioned ecosystem several times, which is fascinating. For companies in places like Estonia, Croatia, Romania, and across the EU, what are the conditions these companies need, these unicorns need, to really thrive?
Many thanks for this question, because what is clear for me at this moment, after many months of discussion with this new generation of innovators, is that the key for the success of innovative businesses of the future is the ecosystem. It is not any separated elements, being talent or capital or access to markets and customers. It is the right combination of all these elements in a well-connected ecosystem that what is needed. And that is why I'm promoting the need of a pan-European innovation ecosystem that would focus on first defining clearly what is a startup and agreeing on a taxonomy that will allow us to collect data and take data-based decisions on this new sector. Second, on developing the talent needed for these deep tech startups to continue growing. Supporting here, I must say, a topic very close to my heart, in particular women founders, and ensuring equal opportunities everywhere in Europe, including rural areas, for example, with the development of startup villages. Third element, we need to address the issue of the use of public procurement to spur innovation and develop flagship projects that would connect ecosystem players across Europe. And finally, we need to ensure that the framework conditions are not against innovation. For that purpose, we need to provide policy advising to all our member states in areas such as startup visas, stock options, taxation for innovation, just to mention a few. And this policy advising will be made as part of the new European Innovation Council Forum. I invite really all our partners and every citizen to join the forum and contribute with your ideas, because definitely we need them. And as you see, I think that now we really know what we need to do. We need now that we work together with our member states, with all the innovation stakeholders, to ensure one thing, that our words become impactful actions.
I think it's obvious that you are passionate about this and passionate about stakeholders across Europe being involved, which is very exciting. And what you just said there in your answer is a perfect segue to my next question as well, because a couple of times now you've mentioned the women VC fund manager, the women venture capital fund manager, and I could just mention here that one of your other roles, aside from being an EPP vice president and a European commissioner, is that for many years you've been a very active vice president of our EPP Women Association, an association dedicated to the advancement of women across the European Union. So what is this Women VC Fund Manager all about? What is the reason for it?
Well, first, research shows that startups receiving external financing in venture capital grow faster than companies that do not. And in 2019, 92% of all funds raised by European venture capital-backed companies went to all-male founding teams. Today, 3/4 of startups in Europe are funded by men, while only 8% are founded by all-women teams. And this lack of diversity translates into the low amount of capital invested into women-led companies, creating a vicious circle. While at the same time, we know that women-founded startups generate more revenue per euro invested. In fact, recent studies show that women-led businesses outperform in capital productivity by 96%. So for me, the challenge is clear. Europe is missing out on talent as well as on better served existing and emerging markets. And analyzing the funding landscape through a gender lens and implementing diversity strategies in venture capital funds, it's paramount to tackle deeply rooted inequalities. I was here, I must say that I'm really very lucky to have a very active community of senior women investors. So a month ago, I convened the first meeting with representatives of women venture capital fund managers from 23 member states, who together have a network of more than 350 women. And they decided to create a European Women in Venture Capital group. The objective is definitely to strengthen the participation of women in the venture capital industry and find new solutions for women-founded companies to succeed. The group is led by two amazing women, Kinga Stanislavska and Laura Estefani Gonzalez. This is really a very important initiative. Now I'm waiting for their report, because they will propose concrete actions addressed to policymakers, to business angels, to industrialists. But that's not all. I must say this is an important initiative. The most important is that we have to act on all levels, starting with education and encouraging young women to study STEM degrees and then continue to support a pipeline of female tech talent. So I'm really very supportive that with our education policy, we invest in the talent of our girls and in our women's. And we need to create the right conditions for more women to become board members in tech companies and start their own business. Last remark, because we all like examples, and I think that it's the most convincing always. I would like here to mention two examples. First, what we have done with the European Innovation Council. Since I took office, we decided to support more women to succeed to the interviews. So always excellence, merit are our main fundamental principles. And in only 5%, we managed to increase the women-led companies funded by European Innovation Council from 8 to 34%. The initial objective is to have at least 25% of women accessing to interviews. Now, the next step is to have at least 40%. And in this framework, I also launched a new initiative, Women Tech EU funding initiative, offering first-class coaching and mentoring to 50 female-led startups and funding to help their business to the next level. Of course, we always need to give more visibility to our inspiring role models. And that's why I'm very glad that again this year we'll have our European Prize for Women Innovations. So I think that here we'll have a lot of inspiring examples that will be up to all of us really to see how with giving more visibility, with concrete actions, with better coordination, addressing this issue, we can succeed. And definitely here, I must say that we have a lot of work ahead of us.
Three things, which is clear, I think, from your answer there is one, empowering women entrepreneurs and innovators is not just good for women. It's not just about fairness. It's good for everyone. And also, I think it's clear there are a lot of inspiring role models indeed. And also, finally, that you've set some very clear goals and you're succeeding, you're achieving them, which is very exciting as well. So wishing you all the best in continuing with this particular initiative. And I have one more policy-related question for you, and that is, in addition to these other responsibilities which you have, which we've talked about, you're also co-chair of our EPP working group on economic policy in digital Europe, and you're also about to start, as I understand it, a new expert group on innovation. So could you just update us what's on the agenda? What are your goals with regards to these groups?
Well, first, I must say that together with my co-chair, Sigrid Murisan, we are very happy with the work within the working group too, because it's all about synergies, it's all about better coordination, it's all about concrete deliverable actions. Now, when we talk about this idea to have a group of innovation, of course, that will help us a lot because first, the expert group would help raise awareness on the efforts of the European Union to support the fourth wave of innovation, and similarly inform policymakers and policies with new knowledge on new technologies, how European innovation actors harness it and what are their challenges. And as such, it would be a strategic point of contact for the European innovation ecosystem, connecting knowledge and networks, and informally, it would feed into a renewed European innovation strategy. Because yes, the expert groups meetings could form a piece of the project to create a true pan-European innovation ecosystem, which aims to encourage public support for innovation and increase the capacity of European companies to adopt new technologies and innovations while working with startups. So I think that it will be a very good idea, great occasion to connect all the different actors, and at the same time, yes, to give more visibility. And for me, the most important is, of course, that that's a great occasion to show our EPP's commitment to innovation in Europe and to increase the EPP's visibility on those topics to see how we can contribute to this innovation ecosystem. And we are one of the very useful interlocutors and contributor to Made in Europe innovation and digital policy.
There are a lot of obviously very important synergies going on, but you were right at the forefront of putting into place and guiding. So thank you for that. I have one final question for you, and it's a less serious question, maybe a more personal question. And it's a question which we like to always finish these interviews with our leaders, and that is, Is there a book or a series, a film you've recently read or watched which you might recommend?
Well, it's not easy because I'm reading a lot, but maybe this time my choice it will be the Bulgarian author that won the European Prize for Literature. It's Georgi Bardarov with the book Absolvote. So you can see here a very strong message because in this book we have four different lines with a lot of philosophical questions, and for me it's very closely linked to our actual debate on the use of new technologies, artificial intelligence, always to preserve our values and our principles. At the same time, at the center is the human soul, where good and not so good live simultaneously, and how we can really offer a new perspective on even some key historical events. And for me, that's a very, very strong message that we can see how with our internal characteristics, we can contribute to a common good, to an advancement, not repeating the same errors from our history, but at the same time asking crucial questions, tackling disinformation, be strong to affirm your values. It's not only words, and it's something different when the time is coming for actions. And that's exactly what we try to do as EPP. We are not only words, we are not only declarations. What really is our strong asset is that we are very pragmatic, well connected to the real needs of our citizens, and that's what we should preserve in order always to affirm a European leadership with values, principles, but with a strong capacity of innovation too.
So two final words of thanks to conclude. First, thanks so much for, in a discussion about innovation and deep tech startups, for introducing the human soul into the discussion and bringing us back at the end to human-centered values. I think that's really important in the discussion, and something indeed which the EPP has been very clear about. And then finally, Mariya Gabriel, Vice President of the European People's Party, European Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education, and Youth. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today, and thank you for all the great work that you're doing. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
To all of our viewers, thanks for joining us. Please tune in again next time for our next episode of EPP Family Talks. Have a great day and see you then.